there's lots of people mad about Game of Thrones, and kind of rightfully so. It ended poorly. But there were theories going on about how the show was going to end, and maybe you'll take my side on this and hopefully feel that there is some sort of meaning in the way that things ended. After about season 6, people started to believe that Bran was actually the Night King. If you kind of look, when he changes, he goes to this real like solemn, monotone sort of person, but that happens when the Night King touches his arm. Immediately, he's totally different. Not when he became the Three-Eyed Raven. That's not when he changed. He had been drug out of the cave and said, "They found us." And you could tell, like, he was totally different now. The old Three-Eyed Raven didn't act like Bran. He was not real weird. He wasn't monotone. He had emotion. He had a little bit of personality to him. And there was like this connection between Bran and who we call the Night King, almost like a Horcrux thing from Harry Potter, between him and Voldemort. There's a little bit more going on there, and they don't ever explain that before the show is over, and I think there's actually some good reason to it. So people are already kind of theorizing that he is the Night King before season 8 starts. I'm pretty sure he is going to become the king, right? I already know, and I'm telling everybody, Bran will be the king by the end of season 8, and they will have him finally sit the Iron Throne, and they will zoom in on him, and his eyes will turn blue, and they will fade to black. That's not exactly how it happened, but I do think that there's still some substance there to believe that that's actually the case. So if you go back to the Great War where they fight off the White Walkers, Bran, while he's being protected by the Greyjoys, out of nowhere, eyes go white, he takes off with the crows. Where does he go? Then the Night King shows up and is riding a dragon a little bit later. They never explain why he takes off in the crows. Bran can control men. We saw him control Hodor earlier on in the show, and so we know he can control men, not just crows and animals and things. And the White Walkers are actually men. We know that as well from watching the Children of the Forest shove the little branch or whatever it was into their hearts. Bran should be able to control White Walkers as well. So when the Night King actually finally comes in and finds Bran, he doesn't look like he's going for his sword. He doesn't look like he's going to kill Bran. And I know that that's what we all expect him to do because that's what they keep telling us that's going to happen. But I really think he was going to pull his sword out, bend the knee, and, bend to his king, Bran. Instead, Arya killed him before that could happen, and so we don't know what was really going on there. But later on, Bran becomes king. At the very end, they go through this montage of all of the Stark kids, right? They're showing how all of the Stark kids have grown up and are kind of in charge. Except they don't. They don't show Bran. They go through a montage of Arya, Sansa, and Jon Snow, but they don't show Bran. The guy who actually becomes king of the 6 kingdoms, the most successful Stark out of all of them, that's the one that they don't show in their little montage at the end. Does that make sense to you? Bran won the Game of Thrones, right? Like, that's what the show is called. It's called the Game of Thrones. There's a montage at the end. The entire montage should be about whoever wins the Game of Thrones. How do you not have the person who actually wins in your freaking montage at the end? How does that make any sense? And then with the very last shot, they have Jon Snow with a bunch of wildlings walking out. And if you notice, they're about to walk into a bunch of woods, and it's the same woods that they walked into in the very first scene of the very first episode. They walked into those woods and found a bunch of wildlings dead because the White Walkers had killed them. I'm pretty sure Jon Snow and all of these wildlings, like they're kind of sending us a message like, hey, they're getting ready to walk into those woods as the very last scene of the very last episode in the very last season. And they are going to walk in there. There will be more White Walkers, and they are going to kill them. And there will be a bunch of dead wildlings left again. And on top of that, the Unsullied are gone. Bran sent them off, right? They get to go somewhere else. So all of their defenses that kind of saved them from the White Walkers the first time, they're all gone. They're going away. They can't protect them. Jon Snow, who is actually the rightful heir to the throne, is about to walk into the woods right now. He sent him to the wall where he's most vulnerable, and he's about to die. Arya is leaving, right? She's going to see what is west of Westeros or east of Easteros or, whatever. She's going to do her Christopher Columbus thing, and she's not going to do her assassin thing anymore. And so the one who actually killed the last Night King is also gone too. So there's another one of your defenses just kind of disappearing. Real quick. Now the White Walkers can just waltz right in. There's no more armies. There's no more fights. There's nothing more like that. They just get to kind of take over. No defenses ready. I'm kind of bugged because they didn't then show Bran and his eyes didn't turn blue and they didn't fade to black. That was very upsetting, but I still think that there's enough context there to actually be more convinced that Bran is the Night King. I think that they actually purposefully gave us just enough clues for us to understand, as they did with Jon Snow being a Targaryen, where most of us had already figured it out long before the show ever actually revealed it. And so I think we're all kind of supposed to understand, but it's not going to be revealed until the books come out and they actually explain and go all the way into detail on who is the Night King, and there's no way that the army of the dead was just demolished in one single battle in one single episode. It can't be that easy. And so there has to be something more to it. And I think that it's Bran being the Night King. Let me know what your theories are. Let me know what you think in the comments, and check out my podcast, Tomfoolery.